before I say any more, this tent is not supposed to be used like this. You're not supposed to cut a hole in the roof and put a stove jack in. If you're gonna do anything like this or make a homemade hot tent, it's at your own risk. People make hot tents out of tarps, and those aren't supposed to be used like that either. But if you're careful, use common sense and try it out before you actually go out and use it. Try it in a safe environment and make sure everything's safe. You can make anything pretty much out of anything. So just wanted to say, I'm fully aware that the tent is not supposed to be used like this, but it does work. In a previous video, I mentioned that I'd be doing some winter camping in the Boundary Waters this year, and that's going to be a remote trip. I'll be putting on a lot of miles, so I wanted to develop a new winter camping setup that wasn't heavy, was cheap, because those who have ever winter camped or have looked into it know that a winter hot tent is several hundred, if not, up to $1,000. And a lot of times that doesn't even come with a wood stove, so that will run you another few $100. And camping should be, an activity. I mean, you're going out in the woods. It shouldn't cost you over $1,000 to go spend the night in the woods. It should be affordable for everybody. So I kind of came up with my own little system here that was ultra light, cheap. This whole system, everything I have in my pack right now is less than $100. That includes the tent and the stove, and everything is in this bag. You can see how light it is. I was trying to get away from having to pull a sled on this trip, just because I said, I'll be putting on a lot of miles, so I want to just be able to kind of grab my pack, throw on my snowshoes, and go wherever I want. So I'll show you guys how I was able to make this system ultra light and for less than $100. Skeet! Skeeter's been running after deer. Hasn't really been sticking around very well. Hey buddy, stick around, stay close, okay? Go play. So in here, I just got, that's kind of my cookware bag. That's some other stuff, but I guess we'll set up the tent first. I just got it in a pillowcase here. So we'll go through that. So when I was looking at the tent, you see people make winter hot tents out of tarps. And that's what I was originally going to do that because it's cheap and light and they work. But as I was kind of going through the tarp aisle, I came across this Ozark Trail, Walmart hiking tent. It's supposed to be a 3-person tent, which we all know that's usually like 2 adults and like a baby. But it's actually quite spacious. But it was only $24.99, and with the tarp, and then I was going to put grommets on it so you could tie it down and everything. With all that stuff, it probably would have been around the same amount of money. And this is already made. It's got a floor already. So I was like, hey, I'll just check that out and I'll throw a stove jack in that and see how it works. And I've tested it out a few times now and it works really well. So I'll show you guys how this goes here. It's also really easy to set up, there's no tarp tents, you gotta kind of get a pole and everything. Everything is just right here. It's really nice. Look out, buddy. Look at the birds. Look at the birds. That'll keep them busy for a minute. Okay. All right, I think we pretty much get the gist of it here. These tents are really easy to set up. They take about a couple minutes is all. This Rainfly, this isn't the way it comes, obviously. It kind of sticks off about that much from the tent, and then it's just mesh under here. So I kind of sewed it with some paracord to keep it against this part of the tent. That way it holds heat in better. And there's no problem getting this tent hot. You know, with how small the space it is and with that wood stove in there, it roasts you out. So this has worked really well. And then for the stove jack here, this is a welding blanket. And I got it from Harbor Freight for I think 12 or 15 bucks. And it comes in a 4-foot by 6-foot sheet. And then I just cut a little stove jack out of it. These work excellent for stove jacks. When you cut them though, you can just cut it with a scissors. They fray really bad. So I just put some tape around it just so it doesn't keep fraying and kind of coming apart. You could sew it over, you know, or fold it over and sew it. But I just used this tape on my last hot tent that I have at the cabin now, and it worked fine. So I'll kind of show you guys around the tent here. So you can see what I mean here. I just kind of sewed it in a couple spots with some paracord just to keep this tight so there's no gap. And I did that all the way around, of course. And then here's what it looks like inside. So not fancy, not saying this is the cat's meow of hot tents. This is just what I did. It's cheap, it's effective, you know, it works is what I'm saying. So, I mean, is it gonna last forever? Probably not, I doubt it. But, you know, if you can get a couple seasons out of a $25 tent, I think you're ahead. So, I think it was worth the shot. But I'll show you guys the wood stove now. And here's the wood stove. So you can see everything fits right inside of it. The pipe, everything is right inside, which is really handy. It's made out of duct ends, and they are galvanized, so you do need to burn, once you make the box, you have to burn it to make it safe to use inside. Because if you don't burn it and then you have your first fire while it's inside with you, it can potentially make you sick. So you want to burn all that stuff off. So once you get this discoloration, it's good. But there's several videos on YouTube of people making these because they're cheap, way cheaper than like I said, a store-bought tent stove, and they're really easy to make and they're really light. But I designed it so everything fits inside here. The pipe comes in 2-foot sections, so I cut them in half so that they all, or so that it fits inside, and then I just crimped the end that I cut. So you can see it all takes a little elbow grease, but it all fits together like that, nice and handy. Obviously this part of the pipe, you can see it's burnt off as well compared to this. So once you achieve this color, it's good. And so this is obviously the bottom of the pipe, and then, you know, the next section. But yeah, really handy. It goes together really good. The legs I made they're just carriage bolts. Grab them here. So all 4 legs are just made out of these bolts here. I do want to get some washers for them because it doesn't sit that good. It's a little bit wobbly right now, but once I get washers on each side of these nuts, it'll be really good. For your hardware with these, you want to use steel hardware because if you use zinc, it'll melt. I think zinc melts at like 500 or something degrees. I don't know off the top of my head, but you want to use steel hardware for your screws and everything. And yeah, it's really easy to make. These duct ends come in all different sizes, so you can kind of make whatever size stove you want. You know, I think mine's like 10 inches by 16 or something like that, so decent size. Heats that tent plenty good. And then for the door here, you can see I just kind of made a crude little, you know, vent control here. So kind of the same as that Guide Gear wood stove I have. I basically just copied that. It's a little crude, but it works. And then this is just, you know, the door and everything is all just made from scratch, you know, from steel or whatever. So yeah, it works really well. I'll set it up and we'll show you guys what it looks like inside. So you can see that fits in there really good, really tight. So here it is with the wood stove inside. I did not, normally you would pack this ground down before you set up the tent, or you'd shovel the snow out of the way because you can see the floor is all bulgy. Normally it's a lot more flat and nicer looking, but I didn't do that for the video here. But you can sleep one person on either side of the stove. It'd be tight, but it is doable. But I plan on sleeping right here and then have my pack right there and then wood right here, so I can, during the night, I don't even have to get up. I can just lean over, grab some wood, throw it in the stove, and go back to bed. So and then you can see I got the remaining of the welding blanket. Since I had it, I just put it behind the stove here just to protect the tent behind it there. It's still plenty of distance away, but I figured if I had the blanket, why not use it for just to make it a little safer. And then I've had fires in here before, quite a few actually, and I always put tin foil underneath the stove. And again, this is a lot more flat when the ground's level. And because tin foil acts as a really good heat reflector. But I just plan on, I think I'm just going to cut this out the floor because there's no reason to even have it there. So it'll just be snow, and then I'll put tin foil underneath the stove just to keep the snow from melting.